Hey there, folks. Santi, the Arizona Ghostriders here. I'm here with Frank Noel.
Hi.
Veteran actor, stuntman, all-around nice guy. Right?
If you say so.
Okay. I got a couple questions to ask you.
Okay.
Cool. First of all, really happy you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down.
Thanks for inviting me.
Appreciate it. Now, I know your parents were circus performers. Did that have any bearing at all on what you did in the entertainment industry?
Well, in a roundabout way. I had a friend of mine, well, two friends actually, Benny and Jimmy Rossi, who their older brother Rex was a stuntman, and he used to double Bob Steele a lot back in the old days in the movies. And we would sit and he would tell us stories about him doubling Bob Steele, and I didn't even know what a stuntman or a double was in those days, until he explained to me that movie stars don't actually do all of their own stunts. Some things they do, but some things they can't do, or the insurance companies won't let them. So they do a cutaway and they move a stuntman in, he does the stunt, and then they cut away again and they bring the actor in, and so it looks like he did the stunt.
How did you get trained to be a stuntman?
Well, actually, I started in right out of high school. In 1961, Kansas had the Kansas Centennial, and a stuntman by the name of Jack Young came to Wichita, and he was the first guy to hire me to do stunts. Okay. And so I started there, and then in 1963, me and some other guys opened Legend City when that new theme park opened, and we went there and did stunts.
Okay. And at some point you were at Old Tucson Studios too, right?
Yes. Actually, in 1963,
so, you were on Wagon Train.
yes.
What'd you do on that?
Well, I started off as an extra, and during the day I got bumped to doing this little stunt where I get shot with an arrow and fall out of the back of the wagon.
Oh, wow.
And that's how Howard Christie, who was the producer, gave me a letter to the Guild, and that's how I was able to get into the Guild.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You got shot with an arrow and got into the Actors Guild.
Yeah.
You have a lot of acting credits as well as stunt credits. What was your most enjoyable role?
My most enjoyable was, the longest part that I had was on Chisholms, which was a mini-series. And back in the 80s, they shot a lot of mini-series like Centennial and Chisholms and Dream West and a lot of those. And so I got on Chisholms, and I had the part of McVitie, who was a troublemaker on the Wagon Train.
Them renegade Indians. We can't let them get away with this. We should attack them.
Ain't nobody attacking no Indians till we get to the bottom of this.
We should teach them heathens a lesson.
There ain't gonna be no killing.
Best we attack them now, Hawkins. We get them before they get us.
Ain't nobody going nowhere. I'm wagon master here.
We can fix that.
We'll take care of you. Get him. Meet up at the back gate.
And that's the one that was the most fun, but a lot of them are fun. I worked on a movie, it was a motorcycle picture called C.C. and Company with Joe Namath and Ann Margaret. That was a fun picture. Most of them are fun. I was in The Great White Hope with James Earl Jones, and that was fun. You know, I mean, they're all fun. When you're working, it's fun. When you're not working, it's not fun.
Right. I get that. I think you told me a story about, at one point, were you invited to play poker with John Wayne?
I was, yes. When I was doing C.C. and Company, they were also shooting Rio Lobo, and the first assistant director was Mike Motor, who I knew. Mike had cast me in a film that he was going to direct called Keen with Robert Conrad, who used to be on Wild Wild West. But they lost their funding, so we never got to do it. But I still got to know Mike Motor, and Mike was the first assistant on Rio Lobo. And one day I was walking across the parking lot at one of the hotels, and Mike saw me and yelled at me and invited me in for coffee. And so while we were sitting there, he said, "Do you play poker?" And I said, "Yeah, some." And he said, "Well, I'm getting up a poker game tonight in my room." And he said, "I'd like for you to be the fifth guy." And I said, "Really? Who else is going to be playing?" He said, "Well, it's going to be me," meaning Mike Motor. "It'll be you." And he said, "Jack Elam, John Wayne, and Chuck Roberson." And I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yeah." And I thought, well, I had just gotten paid. and I had $400 in my pocket from CC and Company. Oh, no. And $400 back in the 60s was a lot of money, you know. Well, actually, it's 1970. And so I thought, nah, they're going to take my money away from me, and I need that money because I got a wife and kid to support. So I said, well, I would love to, but I know you guys are good. I'm not that good a poker player, and you guys are going to take my money. So I begged out. Biggest mistake I ever did. I should have gone, if nothing else, just to network with John Wayne and
Jack Elam,
Chuck Roberson, and those guys. You know.
Hey, dummy, give me that stick.
No. I said, give me that stick,
No.
you goofy bastard.
Ah. Hey! Now, wait a minute, buddy.
So, Frank,
Yeah.
other than working with me recently, what was the funniest thing you've ever done in the film industry?
Just another beautiful day in Mescal Studios.
Feeling okay there, Frank?
Yeah, I'm fine. Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but now that I look back on it, it's funny. I worked with Clint Eastwood on a movie called Every Which Way But Loose.
That was just so you know the first one was no accident.
Frank, she's got a gun. I'm out of here.
And there was one scene of Clint Eastwood, Jeffrey Lewis, and Beverly D'Angelo, is that right? Yeah, Beverly D'Angelo is walking down this hallway. And I had already finished, and they had wrapped me in and was going to send me back to the hotel. And I asked the AD, can I just hang around? I want to shoot some pictures of Eastwood, because I was a big fan of Eastwood. And they said, sure. So I had, back then, everything was filmed. And I had a big old Mamiya Secor single lens reflex, and every time you clicked it, it made a big shutter noise. And I was standing up by camera when they were doing that scene where they're walking down the hallway. And the AD said, well, why don't you go around the building, come in the other side? He said, there's an office. You can go in there and you can shoot right through this glass door that they're going to be walking towards. I thought, boy, that's great. So I go around, I come in, sure enough, they're walking down the hallway, and I'm standing there clicking away, focusing and all this. And I thought they would just go so far and stop. They didn't. They just kept panning. Here I am standing right in the middle of shooting pictures of Eastwood, Jeffrey Lewis, and Beverly D'Angelo. So
Right in camera.
it wasn't funny at the time because the director yelled, cut! And
Who is that guy?
And Eastwood looked at me, and I didn't even know he knew my name. And he said, Frank, I thought we sent you home. And I said, well, I just wanted to shoot some pictures. And he just laughed about it. And Jeffrey Lewis, I said, I really apologize for screwing up the shot. And Jeffrey Lewis says, I didn't like that take anyway, which he wasn't doing anything but walking down the hallway. But anyway, it wasn't funny at the time, but it is now.
It seems like they were pretty good people.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see.
Oh, and by the way, best food I ever had was on a Clint Eastwood picture. We had surf and turf, lobster and steak for dinner. I'd never seen that before on a movie set, and I've worked on several big movies, but that's the best.
Wow. Really?
He took really good care of his crew and his cast.
By golly, it is alive.
So when you were on that movie with Audie Murphy,
Yes.
do you remember what the food was there? I'm just curious.
I don't remember. That was 1965.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what were you doing on that movie?
Well, I was actually a utility stand-in, but most of the time I was Audie's stand-in, and occasionally when he wasn't in a shot or wasn't needed, I would stand in for Ben Cooper and George Keemus.
Oh, wow.
And so, but I really had a lot. I was a big fan of Audie Murphy growing up as a kid, and then to find out he was everything I thought he was the most decorated combat soldier of World War II.
That's what I understand.
He was a real hero, and I always liked the man. And working with him and getting to know him a little bit, I found out that he was a nice guy, and that just really humbled me that he was such a great hero and yet a really nice, down-to-earth person.
We got the advantage, men. It's surprise. Now, we're going out back, split up, and circle around behind them. If we stay low, we can get position and open fire.
Man, you can't be doing this. Nobody knows for sure it was an Injun's responsible. I want you to think twice.
We ain't in the waiting mood, Chisholm. So, boys, shoot for them red engines. Maybe your son will get a luck.
Frank, thank you so much for coming on today. It's amazing.
My pleasure.
Really an honor to know you.
My pleasure.
Can I ask one more thing?
Sure.
Could you sign an autograph for me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Could you make it out to my dearest friend Santi,
Okay.
finest actor I ever knew, dedicated historian, Sagamore of the Wabash.
Sagamore? How do you spell Sagamore?
You know, scratch that.
All right, that's it. Get out of here. Come on, get. No. Nervous some people. Oh, hey, Frank. You mind signing an autograph for me?
Oh, not at all.
Oh, thank you. There you go. Go ahead and make it out to the talented and charismatic Jerry Woods.
Another novelist.
What?
Thing that shrivels my skin is what them Chisholms is planning on.
Well, you know, folks, we're extremely fortunate to hear all about the heyday of Westerns from the people who were there. Thanks for watching another episode. And as always, please like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you on down the trail. Stop.
They're back.
They're back.